Podcasting is networking. Café and Networking promotes entrepreneurs, startups, authors, business experts throughout the world. I'm Tom Reaoch, an American known as the King of Networking, connecting people from my studio in Vinhedo, São Paulo, Brazil. And today we talk with Jeneffer Joe, and she's joining us from Houston, Texas. Jeneffer Joe is a former educator turned certified life coach. She uses her background in curriculum and instruction to train aspiring coaches and support them to launch their own profitable practices. After running 2 businesses, she has learned what works and what doesn't when one is transitioning from employee to entrepreneur and the fear involved. So Jen, what's the cure for fear?
Such a great question, Tom. Thanks for asking. First, we need to recognize that fear is a natural emotion that our brain will present anytime we're doing something that it feels is risky or presents some type of risk. And that is anything that's new, unfamiliar, or different than what we've been doing. There's the risk of failure, the risk of looking embarrassed, the risk of feeling like I made this switch, I took all this effort and it didn't work out the way I planned, right? Of like not having that happy ending in the end. So it's really important to recognize that, look, your brain's always going to offer this as an option. That doesn't mean we have to make it mean that we have to stop or we can't move forward in the direction that we want. So it's really important that when any time that you're feeling fear, use it as a signal to say, okay, my brain is telling me I need to plan, right? Instead of feeling like I need to stop, I just need to plan. I love that Tim Ferriss has this saying, it's called fear setting. And in fear setting, it's basically like, instead of goal setting, like go to the place of the worst case scenario.
Right.
And then what would you do if that happened? Right? Like if that's the case, that happened, what would you do to kind of solve that problem? And oftentimes I found, especially when I was making the switch from educator into becoming an entrepreneur, which I did twice in my career, that the worst case scenario for me was that I'd have to start at the bottom of education, which the lowest for me, I was an educational leader. So I was already coaching and training teachers and doing a lot. It was, okay, I'd have to go back to being a teacher. And then I was like, okay, is that really the worst thing that would ever happen to me, that I'd have to go back to being a teacher? That's somebody else's dream. I think I could live with that. I think I could totally live with that. And I could get back to the place of moving up where I was. If that's the worst, then I'm willing to go and reach for the best case scenario. And the best case scenario is this thing that I'm wishing for, that I'm dreaming of, the freedom, the income that I want. It's actually possible for me. Like, what if it actually works? I'm willing to take this risk, quote unquote, and going for it, knowing that the fear will be there. It's okay. I can do it. I can do it afraid. And I have a plan if the worst case scenario was to happen.
I've found that myself, and you know that. In the end, once we become our own business person, we create whatever it is we do. That's really when we learn that we are eternal teachers. And we're teaching the market of what we do, the product, the service, what it is. And that's part of it. Most people don't have that understanding. So you, as an educator, the fundamental part of teaching is knowing how to do that. And that could be standing in front of an audience, could be standing in front of a class. Unfortunately, today, many times the classes are rowdy. If you're in a business setting, they could be rowdy as well. But the ability to speak, the ability to communicate correctly, those are skill sets that teachers learn, should learn and have. And you're transforming that, you're transmitting that in a way. And many employees don't realize they need those skills.
Yeah. So on top of helping entrepreneurs, one of the things that I do, because not everybody's ready to make that leap to become an entrepreneur and start a business, they rather like just move to a different career or a different job that gives them more of what they want. And I totally encourage that as well. But that can also be scary. For example, I had a client who was an educator. She was a teacher for 27 years. So this is all she's ever done. So taking that leap of faith to say, I'm about to leave this educational setting, and even though this is all I know, to go do something else, that can be very, very scary. So whenever you're doing something like that, I want you to think of taking action from a place of courage, not confidence. I think so often we're waiting to feel confident and we're
Right.
like, okay, once the fear goes away, I will feel confident and I will then go take the action. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not how this works. So I have to educate my clients on this one. I'm like, confidence comes from actually doing the thing multiple times.
Right.
That's when you get confident because you've
Right.
built up that muscle. Right now, what you need is courage. You need to recognize the fear is going to be there and that is okay. The fear gets to be there and you can still take a step forward.
And the courage is the call to action to get up and go.
Yeah, it is. It's like, okay, you're afraid to post, close your eyes and hit post. Like, just press the button, like just go do it. So one of the things I like to tell people is like, what's a tiny thing, like a 2-minute task, the next right step in the direction that you can take right now.
Right.
And then watch your body freak out and be afraid and give you all these fear-based thoughts. And then push past them, go do it, hit the button, send the email, make the request, right? Hit the button, dial the person that you're ready to call,
Right.
Go do it and watch your body immediately start to relax after. Right?
And be ready to get the no. Be ready for failure, because I've learned that.
Oh, yes.
I learned from another person I interviewed. I said, what is failure? He says, failure is it's tuition. And really, we need to fail to understand what's right. Many times we think what's right. So failure is not a bad thing. It's a constructive way to success, I think.
It's learning, right? It's learning. So it's so important to not be afraid. And I love that you said to hear the no, because I'm coaching clients to start their own businesses and they have to talk to people.
Right.
You might have to hear the no, right? And be okay that the person is just saying no to the services, right? They're not saying no to you as a person and who you are. It's like, okay, be willing to hear the no and know that you will not die if you hear it.
I heard years ago, I heard this, I'm not sure if it's still valid, that you will get 16 no's before you get a yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's true, but what I had to prime myself, I said, the sooner I get 16 no's, I'm going to get a yes. So, so the way of looking, the same thing. No's are good. You don't like them because, your expectation is, I want success, I want somebody to ring the bell. But we do need to understand not everybody wants or needs what we have.
Yeah. And that's okay. Right. So one of the things that I make my clients do is create a practice container so that they can practice the skill of coaching and feel more confident in their ability so that they can then go out there and start selling their coaching.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, some people, when you ask them and invite them into your practice container, they may say no. That's okay. Turn and face the people that are saying yes.
Right.
Who's saying yes? Who can you serve right now? Put your energy on them. And those people, the ones that said no, they may come back later and that's okay. And they may not. But the whole point is to go out and start serving people that are interested right now.
And at least they know what you do.
Yeah.
That's what I consider making allies in networking. People need to know what we do to help us.
You never know how that can come back. Like they might have a friend who could use your service.
We always know how that can come back. And when it does, that's a great surprise.
I've had clients that I've met like years ago. Literally, this just happened like last week. I met her when I used to host meetup events, and that was at least 5 years ago. She then found me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, are you still helping people make these like transitions? Like, I'm interested. And I was like, yeah, let's talk. 5 years ago. And this happens all the time when people tell me no on consults, and then they're like, okay, I'm ready now. Like a month later. And I'm like, hey, come on back.
Well, Jeneffer, how can our listeners find you?
Oh, I would love them to find me either on LinkedIn. You can just find me under Jen Joe, or Jen Joe Coaching, which is on Facebook and Instagram under Jen Joe Coaching. Or I welcome, if you are interested in making this transition, either to start your own life coaching practice or make a career switch, find my website, which is livingoutgoals.com, and book a free consultation call where you will get so much value and insight as to the thing, that fear that's holding you back from actually taking action and what you can do instead. Very good. Well, Jeneffer, thanks for sharing your time with us today. Thank you for having me, Tom. And for our audience, again, you can find more about Jeneffer Joe. Jeneffer is Jeneffer, the last name Joe, Joe. Find her on LinkedIn as Jen Joe. And again, livingoutgoals.com, livingoutgoals.com.
Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information on their website, www.focusmi.com. Thanks for listening until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.